Hi there, dear friends. This is Bob Hatton. This is the Encourager. Yesterday I left you with the question as to how was God going to take Mary and Joseph from Nazareth to Bethlehem. There was a prophecy in the Old Testament, in the book of Micah, and it said that the Messiah would come out of Bethlehem. And now Mary it's not very long, and she's going to give birth to a baby, and they're in Nazareth. And Nazareth is about 100 kilometers, about 80 miles away from Bethlehem. So how's God going to do this? Well, I want to just share with you about 5 people who are involved in this first Christmas. The first person is he lives about 800 kilometers away from Nazareth, in a place called Rome. Rome is the capital city, and he is in the governmental quarters of that city, in the emperor's office. And there is Augustus, he's got such a headache, because he's saying, now I've created the Pax Romana, peace in Rome. We've not had peace for so long, but how am I going to keep the peace? It's going to take a lot of money, and I need a lot of soldiers, and the soldiers are going to cost a lot of money as well. So how am I going to do this? And I suppose one of his advisors made a suggestion that the answer would probably be with taxes. Yeah, that's a good idea. So how am I going to collect my taxes? Well, it would be good if we get to know how much money there is in the empire. So let's go and count everybody. Let's go and find out how much money the people have. Let's just find out also how many men we have, how many people we can conscript into the army, and let's go from there. Well, that's a good idea. So they decided that they were going to tell everybody, under a certain age, I suppose, that they had to go to their ancestral homes to be counted, to be registered, and so that they could get all the details. Now, the next ruler was this guy called Quirinius, who was the governor in Syria, the next lower authority in the Roman Empire, and that's where Palestine, that's where Israel was. And Quirinius, he thought this is going to be a good idea, and he would like a piece of the cake as well. So he decided to tax the people according to what they owned, according to how much land they had, or what kind of a house they had, and so on. So he wanted to get in on this job as well, and he wanted to have them registered. Well, very shortly before Mary was going to give birth to the baby, Joseph, he got a letter, he got a summons, he's got to go to his ancestral home, which was Bethlehem, and he had to be there by a certain date at the latest, so that he could be registered, and so that he could pay the correct taxation. The Jewish men were exempt from military service, and they had to pay a little bit more tax than the others. So there was no other way for it. Joseph had to leave, and he had to go to Bethlehem. And there was no way that he could leave Mary alone in Nazareth, because she was ostracized in the village. The way that she got to this baby, it was all very, very mysterious, and people were already mumbling and gossiping about what could be the reason and what has happened. She was more than Joseph's fiancée, but she wasn't yet his wife. So he had to take her with him. Now, if we look at the Christmas cards, we see that Mary and Joseph, they travel to Bethlehem with a donkey. It's 100 kilometers or 80 miles down there, so it's quite a distance. But the Bible doesn't tell us anything about a donkey. Let's hope that they did have a donkey with them, but we don't know whether that's true. Maybe Mary had to walk the whole distance, by herself with Joseph next to her, carrying this baby shortly before the birth. So we've got these 3 men. We've got Augustus, we've got Quirinius, we've got Joseph, and the next man Well, traditionally he would be the innkeeper, but actually the Bible doesn't mention anything about an innkeeper. It just simply tells us there was no room at the inn. The inn was full up. All the hotels were full up. There were no boarding houses or anywhere where they could stay. But there was some kind of a host who gave them a place to stay. Now, traditionally, they were in a stable. But the Bible doesn't speak about a stable either. They could have been in a stable with the ox and the donkey and some sheep. I don't know. They could have just been in a barn amongst the hay and the straw, or they could have been in a garage somewhere. What we just know is that there was a crib, which was a container what they used to put the feed for animals. So we assume it could have been in a stable. So anyway, this innkeeper, the host, I suppose he was quite kind enough to give them somewhere to stay for the night. And it's in this night they'd probably just arrived in Bethlehem, been so disappointed about not being able to find anywhere where they could sleep for the night, and then the labour pains started. This host, kind as he was, he gave them somewhere to stay for the night, or maybe for the next few days, and it's there where the baby was born. Now, as a man, I have absolutely no idea about how to give birth to a child, but I have seen it kind of in the distance, and we've had children ourselves, and I've got some daughters who are mothers, and our youngest daughter also works on the maternity ward in the hospital. So I know some hearsay about giving birth to a child. It's good if there's a midwife there, maybe a doctor, maybe some kind of nursing staff to help, or even just a mother who has some experience about giving birth. But at this birth there was Joseph was there, and Joseph didn't have the foggiest idea of how to bring a child to the world. Mary had to do everything by herself. And then we read in the old version of the Bible, it's so romantic. And he was laid in swaddling clothes and in a manger laid. And really, this sounds so romantic. These swaddling clothes, that was just a nappy or a diaper, depending on which part of the world you come. He just around his middle, he had some cloth tied around him in case he soiled himself. Mary had to do that all by herself. She had to cut the cord. She had to bath the child, wash the child. She had to dress him. She had to clean him, as well as giving birth to him. But despite this very humiliating way that the Son of God came to the world, God's hand was behind this. God's hand was behind this, and He is directing the affairs of people. When I was a young man, I felt the call of God on my life, first of all to go to Bible school, and then to serve the Lord in some kind of full-time service. Well, I applied to go to Bible school in Great Britain because that's where I come from, and I got turned down because they said, "You're too late, all the places have been taken, apply again next year." So I said, okay, I'll do that. And I was more or less satisfied that's the way it's going to go. And my father-in-law, he says, "Why don't you apply at the German Bible school?" And I said, "Well, I can't speak German proper." He said, "That doesn't matter, go and apply." So I applied, and I got the same reply back: "All places taken, try again next year." And then I got a job. Or I was going to get a job. They agreed I could start work in the autumn of that year and work on a conveyor belt in a factory. And before I started working there, I got a letter from this German Bible school. And the German Bible school said, "If you want, you can come because some places have got free." So I thought that's interesting and decided I would take up this offer. Now, what had happened, there were some students at the German Bible school who were ethnic Germans, but their ancestors had emigrated to Chile many years ago. And they were born there, they were working there, but they come to Germany to study, and they went back to Chile during the summer to work in their churches, and were going to come back in the autumn to continue their studies. this. But what happened was there was a coup, and the government was deposed, and a new government was installed, and there was a lot of fighting and disquiet, and the government closed all the airports and everything, and nobody could leave the country. So they wrote to the Bible school and said, "I'm sorry, at this time we can't come. We'll try again to come again next year, but this year we can't come." And so I was able to go to that Bible school. If this hadn't have happened, I would have waited a year, and I would have gone to the Bible school in Britain, and the rest of my life was probably being in that country, or at least taking a different course. But because me studying at that German Bible school, I ended up staying here. A coup in Chile changed the direction of my life. I know God has probably had many, many more things he was doing with this incident as well. It wasn't just about me, but it was part of what God did for me, and he is directing the affairs of man, and he's directing your affairs. So I want you to be encouraged with that today, and I wish you God's blessing, and see you again. Your Bob Hatton, your encourager.